The following is a presentation of the Women's Football Alliance.
With only 2 weeks remaining, we are seeing that the American Conference in the Pro Division is anybody's for the taking. Welcome to Week 7 on the road to Canton. Welcome to another week of Road to Canton. I'm Brian Sweeney, the voice of the Women's Football Alliance Pro Division National Championship game. In Week 6, we saw that many things are still on the table as far as who will be playing in the postseason. Here are the Week 6 highlights and scores. The Detroit Venom moved to 3-2 on the season when they finished the home half of their regular season with a 35-14 win over the Derby City Dynamite of Division II. The Nevada Storm moved to 3-1 on the season when they finished the road half of their regular season by beating the Portland Fighting Shockwave of Division II, final score 63-6. The Pittsburgh Passion also finished out their road game schedule when they moved to 3-1 on the season with a 35-6 victory over the Columbus Chaos of Division II. The only pro versus developmental game on this season's schedule, the Tampa Bay Inferno moved to 4-1 on the season when the Daytona Wave Runners called the game in the second quarter. And in WFA Pro head-to-head games, the Boston Renegades moved to 5-0 on the season and are the only WFA Pro Division team to remain undefeated. Their latest victory of 49-21 over the St. Louis Slam was not an easy one, as St. Louis was leading 21-19 at the half. And in the game of the week, the Cali War traveled to Arlington to battle the Impact. At stake was playoff seeding, with Arlington coming out on top 56-18. With the win, Arlington moves to 4-1 on the season, and the loss for Cali also puts them at 4-1. Alex Westhead breaks down the Cali War Arlington Impact game.
When I introduced last week's Game of the Week for Week 6 in the Women's Football Alliance, I mentioned that the Arlington Impact were severe underdogs to the Cali War. However, sometimes, in the darkest of circumstances, light can shine through. As earlier prior to the week, the Arlington Impact lost their assistant defensive line coach, Parrish Harris, who had been a coach with the team since the 2015 season. On the Arlington Impact Instagram page, they said that Coach P had been with the Impact since 2015. His voice made such a huge impact appropriately on not just our players, but on our coaches and our staff. His support, encouraging words, and inspiration will never be forgotten. The Arlington Impact took that loss and performed an inspired performance, knocking off the Cali War in decisive fashion. Arlington would get on the scoreboard first, and the Impact would lead the contest early 7-0. The Cali War would respond on their subsequent drive, but missed the extra point to make it a 7-6 Arlington lead. Then 1 touchdown, 2 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns, 5 touchdowns, and a 41-6 lead for the Arlington Impact. An explosive performance for Arlington as they led at the half 41-6, a score that many across the Women's Football Alliance thought was completely impossible. Ken Gabriel was the star of the show on the offensive side, extending her lead in the American Conference touchdown category with several touchdowns over the course of the first half. Then, at the end of the third quarter, no scoring happened, so it was still 41-6, the Impact over the Cali War. In the fourth quarter, guess what? Arlington would find the end zone once more for the final time, and that would be the final, as after one more additional touchdown, 56-18, the Arlington Impact would defeat the Cali War in Arlington, Texas last Saturday. It was a significant matchup for the Arlington Impact to come away with victory, as Arlington was in the 4th seed in the American Conference prior to play beginning. The Cali War was at the top of the American Conference. With this huge upset win, Arlington has now jumped into the number 2 seed in the Massey ratings in the American Conference, which would allow them to host their first playoff game in the Women's Football Alliance since the 2016 season. Every subsequent trip they've made the playoffs, they've been on the road, including losing at Minnesota last season. Now, on the other side for the Cali War, they too, at the top of the Massey ratings, they've dropped, now not from the first position, but down to the 3rd. So this would be a playoff rematch that likely would be looming in that first round of the playoffs. For Arlington Impact, they were originally supposed to schedule the D3 Houston Power coming up in Week 7. However, that matchup has been canceled due to a tragic loss in the Houston Power organization. So Arlington Impact will take the victory from that and conclude their season overall at a record of 5-1, 2-1 in the WFA's Pro Division. The Cali War will have absolutely nothing to be ashamed of, but they'll have to bounce back quickly as they'll have the Nevada Storm coming up in Reno on this Saturday in Week 7. And just to see who will necessarily be heading on the road to Canton.
The 2022 All-American rosters were released this past week. Congratulations to all the players across all 4 divisions who were selected to represent their teams. We'll be right back. The Women's Football Alliance wants to thank their sponsors, KT Tape, Coors Light, Wilson, Aid Nation, Zenith, Hall of Fame Resort and Entertainment Company, Secret, and the NFL Alumni Academy. Thank you for your support of the Women's Football Alliance. Welcome back. There are only 2 more weeks left in the regular season for the Pro Division. Here are Week 7's matchups. The 1-3 Dallas Elite Mustangs are on the road to play the 3-2 Houston Energy of Division II. These 2 teams met in Week 1 of the season, and then Houston won 42-8. Houston wants to remain the number 2 seed in the Division II American Conference. Dallas, with 2 games left, is hoping to get to 500 to end their season. The 4-1 Arlington Impact will close out the regular season at home when they host the 2-3 Houston Power of Division III. Arlington, off of a big win last week, is looking to move up in the Massies to host a playoff game, whereas Houston is hoping to end the season at 500. And in head-to-head Pro Division games, the 5-0 Boston Renegades will complete their regular season schedule with a rematch of their Week 2 game against the 2-2 DC Divas. For Boston, they are looking to complete another perfect season. For the Divas, they are looking to keep a home field game in the playoffs. The 3-1 Pittsburgh Passion hosts the 3-2 Detroit Venom. A win for Pittsburgh could move them into the number 2 spot in the National Conference. For Detroit, this is their final regular season game of the season, and they need the win if they want any chance of playing in the postseason. The 2-2 St. Louis Slam will welcome the 3-1 Minnesota Vixen. St. Louis, after leading the Renegades last weekend, needs a big win for a chance to make the playoffs. Minnesota needs to win out to keep the American Conference home field advantage. And in the game of the week, after a tough road loss last weekend, the 4-1 Cali War finish out their regular season on the road when they will travel to play the 3-1 Nevada Storm. These 2 teams met just 2 weeks ago when Cali mounted a 4th quarter comeback. Nevada is looking for a win to host a playoff game, and Cali is looking to stay in the playoff picture. Tampa is the only Pro Division team on a bye this week. Alex Westhead breaks down the Cali War Nevada Storm matchup.
As the road to Canton's regular season reaches its finale in just 2 weeks' time, our Week 7 Game of the Week matchup in the Women's Football Alliance features bitter rivals as the Cali War head east from Torrance, California into the Sierra Nevada mountains to take on their bitter rivals, the Nevada Storm. This game in Week 7 is a rematch of their Week 5 contest in Torrance, California, which saw the Cali War defeat the Nevada Storm by an explosive 54-52 final. We last saw the Cali War just last week as they lost in a decisive fashion to the Arlington Impact 56-18. It's a matchup and a score that, when we looked at the WFA's Massey rating system and the projections, seemed impossible. Arlington had just a 30% chance of victory, but as I said earlier in this program, it would appear certainly that the Arlington Impact played possessed and they played for a cause. And Cali War was the unfortunate victors and the unfortunate victims of that. They're still led by the same players as they were a week ago. Chantel Nino-Wiggins remains the quarterback. Her air raid offense remains one of the best offensive capabilities in the Women's Football Alliance when it is firing on all cylinders. Nori Washington remains the featured running back with 23 carries and 144 yards this season. And the receiving core remains the same. Number 1, Claude. Number 16, Barrett. Number 24, Wilson. All with 4 or more receiving touchdowns this season. But it's more than that. It's Samia Jones, it's Lisa King, the commissioner of the Women's Football Alliance, who provide many options for Chantel Nino-Wiggins to be able to spread out the ball and keep a defense guessing. It may have been a bump in the road for the Cali War, but if they want to be able to control their playoff destiny and how, in their eyes, they will make the road to Canton and be in that championship game in the early part of July, they'll need a win here against the Nevada Storm, especially to improve their Massey rating. On the other side is the Nevada Storm team that's feeling pretty darn good about themselves in their last handful of matchups and the times that we've featured them. Coming off of a Week 6 victory in Portland, Oregon against the Portland Fighting Shockwave, a Division II team, by a 63-6 margin, this team knows how to score points against the Cali War. They put 52 points against Cali in their Week 5 matchup, and they figure that with home field this time, that perhaps things could be different. In fact, it was a home game in the 2021 season, which the Nevada Storm were able to beat the Cali War, that opened the eyes of everyone across the league and said, hey, this Nevada Storm team, they might be actually pretty darn good, and they could be the team that will excel in the WFA Pro Division. When you look at how they've fared this season, they're 3-1 overall. This will not be their last matchup. They'll have a Week 8 matchup currently scheduled against the Kern County Crusaders. But, of course, they have to take care of Cali War here first. In our Week 1 program, my question for the Nevada Storm was how well would quarterback Mo Ochin be able to throw the football? The answer? She's thrown well enough to be able to keep Nevada in football games. In fact, if you take a look at the 2021 season, now to the 2022 season, Ochin has outperformed her 2021 season in triplicate. 11 completions on 22 attempts, averaging 16.1 yards per pass attempt, 177 yards overall, and 3 touchdowns, including a touchdown against the Minnesota Vixen in a comeback effort in which Nevada trailed Minnesota 26-6 before a great offensive output, 22 points unanswered, gave the Nevada Storm an unlikely come-from-behind victory on home field. So crazy thing happens when the ball game is played in Nevada. On the ground, many expected the Nevada Storm to be led by their All-American running back, Jasmine Plummer. However, Plummer has been injured this season, and they've instead been led by a speedster, number 18, Sarah Coangelo, whose 35 carries and 352 yards lead the Nevada Storm in that category. 3 touchdowns on the season. The overall touchdown leader for Nevada with 5 is number 1, Jessie Felker, including a pair of touchdowns and a 2-point conversion against Minnesota. She figures to be a significant part of this offense until Jasmine Plummer returns to be healthy and can resume her role as the featured back in this offense. Nevada's not a team that passes much, we know that. However, they are led by number 86, Ambra Marcucci, whose 2 receptions and 97 yards leads the team in that category. You think 2 receptions? That's not a lot of receptions. That's not a lot of offense through the air. However, those 2 receptions, both have been touchdowns. Defensively for Nevada, we take a look. It's a 2-star athlete as Jessie Felker plays well on the offensive side and the defensive side, leading the team for 20 tackles, 5 of which have been for a loss. That leads Nevada in that category. Felker also has the only recorded sack and one of the 2 forced fumbles for the Nevada Storm this season. For this game, I take a look at my key, where we know that this matchup, if it is how it was in the Week 5 contest, it's going to be high scoring. Whichever team gets a defensive stop first is going to be the team that wins this game. Otherwise, it may be an issue of whoever has the ball last is going to be the one that wins the game. I also look at another key. Anytime a team is playing a team in Reno, Nevada, or when anyone is playing the Division II Mile High Blaze or the Division III Rocky Mountain Thundercats, the elevation. Cali War plays at sea level. Nevada Storm and their home field is well above sea level. That thinner air will play an impact on the conclusion of this contest. How well will Cali War be conditioned? How well will they be able to maintain their high level of excellence that we see at sea level at Rocky Mountain level? We'll find out after the Week 7 matchup.
Both the American Conference and National Conference playoff seedings changed this past weekend. Here's what they look like as of now. The National Conference saw only a change in numbers 3 and 4, so now number 4 Pittsburgh would play at number 1 Boston, and number 3 Tampa Bay would play at number 2 DC. In the American Conference, the top 4 teams are all the same, but the positions have all changed, as the number 4 Cali would now travel to number 1 Minnesota, and number 3 Nevada would travel to number 2 Arlington. With 6 of the 8 playoff positions changing just this past week, I would not be making any travel plans quite yet. We'll be right back.
The Women's Football Alliance wants to thank their sponsors, KT Tape, Coors Light, Wilson, Aid Nation, Zenith, Hall of Fame Resort and Entertainment Company, Secret, and the NFL Alumni Academy. Thank you for your support of the Women's Football Alliance.
Welcome back. I think I speak for most of us when I say propelling down a 14-story building isn't quite for me. Lois Cook is back this week in her segment, Low on the Go.
Wait, what? What'd you say?
I want to be a marshmallow.
What would you do if you were a marshmallow?
I would just wobble around.
You would what?
I would just wobble around.
Wobble around?
Joy.
With joy.
What if? No. Wait. What if? No. Speaking of which, wherever you're watching this, find us on social media and make sure you comment your favorite food. It might become a video. Hashtag WFA and hashtag LOTG.
And of course, hashtag Road to Canton.
See you next time.
Few people in any sport can consider themselves the GOAT. Recently, I had the opportunity to talk to the GOAT of the Women's Football Alliance. Here's my interview with Allison Cahill, where we talked about the past, the present, and the future. Well, Allison, I can't tell you how excited I am to get an opportunity to talk to you. I mean, I've called your games, your championship games for the last few seasons. I've made sure to make my way on down to the sidelines after a game and congratulating you. But I think this is the first time we've actually had an actual interview that's going to be broadcast. So thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
So last year, after the 2021 National Championship game, you had the honor of getting your jersey put on display in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. What does that feel like, knowing that that's such a great accomplishment for the women of this sport?
Yeah, I mean, honor is the perfect word for it. I think when Molly Goodwin, our owner, first told us when we arrived in Canton that the winning team would have a jersey and a ball on display, we were all pretty fired up about that. And then, the game ends, it ends in our favor, and, still kind of like in the immediate aftermath, the excitement, and Molly announces that, the coaches chose my jersey. And, the most important thing, of course, is that it was our team, because it wasn't going to be anyone from the losing team. So it meant that we accomplished our goal. But, I was just honored, as you said, that, my coaches chose my jersey, but would have been thrilled, to have any Renegades jersey in there for what it represented, which was a win in the championship.
Now, you've been playing for a number of seasons. 2022 is your what season?
Number 19. I'm counting 2020. I want credit for it.
I count 2020 for everything I do as well,
Yeah.
so there's nothing wrong with that. So 19 seasons, and year after year, you're able to continuously be a leader on that field. I mean, what brings you to that level where the rest of these athletes on your team can trust you when you're in that huddle or when you're on the line calling those plays?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, the opportunity is very unique. Most folks, their athletic career ends at age 18, and, fewer folks get to play until they're 22 if they have a college career. And here I am, well past my college years and still getting to play the sport I love. So, it's kind of a, if I knew then what I know now kind of situation where I can kind of blend together the physical capability to still do it, but the mental wherewithal and experience to learn something new and better prepare myself year after year, taking my experiences from the past 19 years, but also trying to find, different levers to pull to continue to improve and help my team. So I'm just grateful that my body can still do it. And, I still have accumulated all these years of experience that I try to put to use year after year while still finding new ways to improve.
And 19 years, I mean, that's a long time. You've seen a lot of changes in women's football. Where do you see the game 5 years from now?
Yeah, hopefully continuing to move forward. I think it's exciting to see new teams kind of coming to the forefront, like Minnesota and Nevada, as teams from the past have sort of fallen off or are going through a rebuild. And that's what keeps me going is competition. Nobody wants to win games 60-0. So, for all the hard work to be worth it, it's about those Saturday competitions. So, to get more parity and have other teams push the teams that are currently up at the top to take it to another level, and for those teams to rise up, and just, rising tide lifts all ships. So the more competition, the better. And of course, as we get, bigger sponsors and, bigger platforms that we're broadcast on, like ESPN2, that will reach potential athletes who are going to try to find a team in their area, hopefully. It's a virtuous circle from there, hopefully.
Allison, I want to thank you for your time today. I look forward, win or lose, making it to the championship game or not, I know I'll see you in Canton, Ohio on July 10th, and I look forward to it.
All right, likewise. Thanks so much, and thanks for all you do for our sport and bringing a level of professionalism to it and doing all you can to spread the word and get us out there. So thank you, Brian.
With only 2 weeks to go in the regular season, I'm sure we're going to see a lot more movement in the playoff picture. I know I, for one, am looking forward to it. For Brandy J, Lois Cook, and Alex Wested, I'm Brian Sweeney, and we'll see you next week on the road to Canton.
Thank you for watching the preceding presentation from the Women's Football Alliance.